environments for coding, right? The most popular development environments for C# and .NET frameworks are Mono Develop, Sharp Develop, and Visual Studio. Mono Develop. So Mono Develop is an open source integrated development environment for Linux, macOS, and Windows. Its primary focus is the development of projects that use Mono and .NET frameworks. Now, Mono Develop integrates features similar to those of NetBeans and Microsoft Visual Studio, such as automatic code completion, which is very handy, source control, graphical user interface, GUI, and a web designer. So Mono Develop integrates a GTK Sharp GUI designer called Static. It supports Boo, C, C++, C#, F#, Java, Oxygen, Vala, JavaScript, Visual Basic.NET. So Mono Develop can be used on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. As I was telling you before, the Mono Develop has included within a C# compiler since its earliest versions that I can think of. In fact, trust me on that. A customized version of Mono Develop formerly shipped with Windows and Mac versions of Unity, which is the game engine by Unity Technologies. You probably played it, whether or not you knew it or not. So it enabled advanced C# scripting, which was used to compile cross-platform video games by the Unity compiler. Sharp Develop. So Sharp Develop, also styled as Sharp Develop, is a free and open source integrated development environment, or IDE, for the .NET Framework, Mono, GTK Sharp, and Glade Sharp platforms. So it supports development in Boo, C#, Visual Basic.NET, F#, Python, Ruby. Those are the primary programming languages it supports. So it was designed as a free and lightweight alternative to Microsoft Visual Studio, and it contains an equivalent feature for almost every essential Visual Studio Express feature, including features for project management, code editing, application compiling, and debugging. Now, to allow for easy project migration, Sharp Develop works natively with Visual Studio Project and code files. It's also able to compile applications for the .NET framework. Sharp Develop is written entirely in C# and consists of about 20 components that integrate into the form of the application. Now, the source code editor component is known as Avalon Edit, and it can be used by other applications. Now, early in its development, the project was split for Mono and GTK Sharp development into the Mono Develop project. Microsoft Visual Studio. So Microsoft Visual Studio is an integrated development environment from Microsoft. It is used to develop computer programs as well as websites and web apps, web services, and mobile apps. Visual Studio uses Microsoft software, of course. It uses Microsoft software development. Now, it can produce both native code and managed code. Visual Studio includes a code editor supporting IntelliSense, which is the code completion component, as well as code refactoring. The integrated debugger works both as a source-level debugger and a machine-level debugger. Other important built-in tools include a code profiler, forms designer for building GUI applications, web designer, class designer, and a database schema designer. It accepts plugins that enhance the functionality at almost every level, including adding support for source control systems and adding new tool sets like editors and visual designers for domain-specific languages, or even tool sets for other aspects of software development lifecycle, like the Team Foundation Server Client, Team Explorer. Visual Studio supports 36 different programming languages and allows the code editor and debugger to support nearly any programming language, provided a language-specific service exists. So some of the built-in languages include C, C++, Visual Basic.NET, C#, F#, JavaScript, XML, HTML, CSS, Python, Ruby, Node.js. The most basic edition of Visual Studio, which is a community edition, that's available for free of charge. The slogan for Visual Studio Community Edition is free, fully featured IDE for students, open source, and individual developers. How's that for a mantra? So the currently supported Visual Studio version is 2019, and in this training, we will use Visual Studio 2019. So in the next part, we're going to install Visual Studio for Windows and Mac OS. See you in the next section.